Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us at our first inaugural live stream event for our Maitland Business Chamber events. We'll start with the usual general welcomes and our welcome acknowledgement to the Wanneroo people as traditional owners of the custodians of the lands within the Maitland local government area. We pay respects to all Aboriginal elders, past, present, future, and spiritual connections to these lands. Thank you to all those who are able to attend today. We'd also like to thank some sponsors, Nimbler Digital and Streaming House. Jonathan Pointer and the team are in the background getting us live for this stream. There's been a lot of hard work going behind the scenes to get it up and running, and we would value your feedback, but also participation as we have question time from each of our speakers, and then there'll be a wrap up and there'll be some questions at the end there. We'd also like to thank the Maitland the Maitland Mercury for sponsoring our events and advertising our events in their paper. So this afternoon, I'll be introducing David Evans. He was appointed to his current position as General Manager Maitland City Council in April 1998. David has professional background in qualifications in town planning, local government management, business real estate, and is a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. David is the Director of Arrow Collaborative Services Limited, Chairman of the Hunter Council's General Managers Advisory Committee, Chairman of the Hunter Resource Recovery, and a former Director of both Hunter Tourism and Local Professionals Australia and New South Wales. In January 2014, David was awarded the Public Service Medal for Outstanding Community Service, particularly through Maitland City Council and through his role on the Hunter regional entities. David Evans, PSM, General Manager of Maitland City Council, will present the Maitland Business Chamber Council operational plan for 2021-22. David, would you like to, he'll start off with a short video, and then he'll join us and start his presentation. Thank you.
As I walk these streets, I feel the echoes of a time gone by, the vibrations of a town steeped in prosperity, bustling with activity, and fed by the veins of the mighty Hunter.
Until the 1880s, Maitland was the main centre north of Sydney. It grew into a very affluent town, the main port for people to send trade, commerce up north. That's why the city grows along this river.
Part of what's really special about Maitland is this very intact representation of early Australian architecture along its high street.
Maitland is a place where you look up, because if you look up, you see the history and the nature and the affluence of the city built into the fabric of it.
It was the river that brought life to our city. It was the river that connected us to the world. We depended upon it, and we thrived because of it. It brought wealth, it brought stature, and it brought destruction that led us to fear it. We turned our backs on it.
I think there are a variety of factors for the decline of Maitland. People are shifting to Newcastle and to Sydney. And then there's always the ongoing issue with the Hunter River. It provides water, it does a whole variety of things, but it also floods. And so that made it really difficult for Maitland to be as attractive as it was.
Back in 2009, Council commissioned a study into the CBD. Two of the big things there were improving the public domain, but also improving our relationship with the river.
I was really amazed that you would stand in the high street and have no awareness that 30 metres away was the Hunter River.
It was a beautiful riverbank, but it wasn't terribly engaging on the built side.
Our role on the project, we had a supporting role to McGregor Coxall, who were the designers for the levee. We really wanted to create this more civic scale connection between High Street and the river. And ultimately, where we landed was for the project to be both a public space, a threshold, and a portal through to the river environment.
This has delivered the river to the CBD in a way that none of us thought possible.
We've conceived the building to give this really tight framing, almost like a picture frame, and we crafted the building to have a very minimal expression to really keep the focus upon the view through of the landscape beyond. The angles of the building pick up on the geometries of the streets. So we have Balworth Street, we have the High Street, and then we have the river itself that moves. We've bundled all of these different geometries together till we found a pleasing sculptural composition.
And so there's this sense of a painting, but there's also a sense of an opening that says walk through, come backwards and forwards.
I was watching a couple who lived in Maitland for 70 years, and they walked through the river link and were kind of stunned by the presence of the river, and they just rested there and gazed upon the river as if they'd never seen it before. To us as designers, that speaks to the transformative potential of architecture and how it can affect the way people experience and see a place.
Whenever I come down to Maitland CBD now, there is more activity. I think it's great that we've got spaces now outside and lovely spaces like public art.
It's a really exciting era, being able to link this space with our businesses and our city. That space activation will really support and enhance all the business opportunities in this CBD.
Maitland no longer turns its back on the river, it's embracing the river. I certainly believe that those connections, whether it's buildings or it's the river or it's through festivals or it's through talks or it's just through walking and talking and being, is a really vital part of making people feel a part of a place. And for me that's great because I think it's a great city.
We always saw the river as a burden, not as the lifeblood of the city. This Riverlink building has made the river such a positive thing for Maitland. There's so much that we've done with this space and there's so much more that we can do.
Shane, thank you for that introduction. Thank you particularly for the invitation to join the Chamber today for your live stream lunch. It's great to be with you. I hope those of you who have joined us enjoyed that short video, which very much focuses on our Riverlink building. We're very proud of that, and as you'd see from the credits, it's won multiple awards, both locally and internationally. The reason that I thought we would start with that today is that it's a great example of how Maitland as a city is transforming. Like most cities, we have our cycles, we have our boom, we have our busts, but I think the things that are sort of starting to consolidate and happen now in the city centre really do evidence that over time and with good planning, things can change. It's a lead-in, I guess, to a number of projects that I'll share with you today that are very much about transforming the city centre, bringing life back into the city centre as the heart of Maitland. And as we all know, we're a very strongly growing city and we are very much a focus of growth here in the Hunter. In terms of some of the other projects, I guess one of the obvious ones to start with is the new Maitland Administration Centre. It's a modern design, but it's acknowledged the surrounding heritage architecture of the Town Hall Cafe, which is 170 years old. And it's a great project. It's going to house all of the council's current and future staff. Right at the moment, we're spread over the administration building here in High Street. We've got rented premises up off Ken Tubman Drive, and we've got staff crammed into our admin unit over at the depot in Metford Road. So this project's very much about a number of things, certainly bringing the council office-based workforce back into one location. It's also very much about putting new life into the Maitland Town Hall and creating a true community centre for the city. From our point of view as council, it's going to give us a much better environment in which to work. It's critical these days to attract and retain skilled staff, that we offer a good environment. But it's also about giving us a better basis for face-to-face interaction with the community in many forms. If you weren't aware, currently our workforce numbers are around about 500. We are one of the largest employers in town, and this construction project itself is going to generate some 51 jobs during construction, with a knock-on of about 148 jobs as those funds cycle through the community. And we're scheduled for completion around about September 22. I'll just share with you the floor plan of the building. Don't worry too much about the detail, but if you can see my cursor moving on the screen, the new floor space is the area to the right-hand side of the image. And of course, in the centre here, we have the existing town hall. The connection between the two is this common foyer area that physically links the town hall space and the new administration space. We have a main entry and we have a shared foyer, which will also now function as the main entry and foyer to activity in the Maitland Town Hall auditorium, in a refurbished Maitland supper room, and in meeting rooms that will be available to the community and the general public in what will be rather a refurbished Maitland Town Hall complex. Some of the other things we're doing in the town hall relate to its performance capability. There will be a stage level loading dock. There are new change rooms for performers. There's a green room, new plant room and furniture store, and importantly, new kitchen facilities that will support activity and the like in the town hall. So it's a project that is very much for the community broadly, not just for the administrative staff of the council. I'm very pleased that we've got it underway, and I think it's a great statement of pride and confidence in Maitland and our city's future. To share with you some of the architectural renderings of the internal floor space, this is a rendering of the foyer area that we were just talking about. We have our customer service reception point on the right as you look at it. In the central area, some casual seating while people are waiting for meetings with staff or others. There are some more private seating and conversation booths over here on the left. As you look through the building, you are looking into the rear wall of the Town Hall Cafe sitting on High Street. That building and its floor space is being incorporated into the public foyer. And as you look through the glass over here to the main entry, you'll see what's an indication of the Maitland Art Gallery just across the road. As we move through the building, this is at the first floor level. This is just an indication of the amenity that will be provided for staff, our lunchroom, if you want to call it that, or our lunch space and gathering space for the workforce. Again, offering a very contemporary and modern office environment for the workforce to enjoy. And then moving up through the building, this is a rendering rather of the first and second floors and the light well in the roof of the building, which when you combine with the openings in the floor plates allows the natural light to penetrate right down through the building. So as I said, a very contemporary and modern office environment. It's got a lot of flexibility in it. It will accommodate the growth in our workforce over many years. And it's just a great thing to see. It will help transform this eastern sector of High Street. If you think about what's happening down here with the art gallery, the administration centre project, the regional sports complex, It's very much about revitalisation of the city centre and particularly the stimulation of activity in this eastern sector of High Street. The next is just a short fly around, if you like, just to give you an idea of how the building will sit in the street, showing its High Street frontage. And it does take you also around to show you perspective of the building as it would be seen from the southern side or the car parking areas at the rear of the building. Oops, we're going again. That wasn't supposed to happen. Moving on, you don't do a project like this without addressing the street environment out the front. This is a landscape plan in concept form at this stage, just showing how we would like to see High Street treated across the whole frontage of the council's presence here in High Street. This is the current administration building, the frontage to High Street, and then across the road we have the Maitland Regional Art Gallery. As you can see, the main entry to the gallery and the main entry to the administration centre and to the town hall are aligned to tie the precinct and those two elements of this precinct together. We're at the moment in consultation with the Hunter Water Corporation about in-ground water mains and utilities. And the purpose of that conversation is to make sure we get into the street environment as many trees and new plantings as we can. You'll shortly see work start across the road along the frontage of the gallery, where we're going to underground the overhead power lines that are there. Pardon me. Just to improve the amenity of this part of High Street, but also to allow us to do some work on the facade of the art gallery and the roof structure, which we can't do at the moment because of the proximity of the power lines. So a great space to watch over the next 12 months or so and see that part of High Street transition. Moving on, we are also working more generally on High Street. We've been fortunate to get a grant of about $600,000 from the New South Wales Government's Your High Street program. That's $600,000 that's going to go toward improving the street environment between Grant Street and the Ken Tubbin Drive roundabout. What you'll see happen there is the introduction of some garden and green spaces, a parklet, additional seating for outdoor dining, some creative street and footpath treatments, and a shared pop-up zone for activation of this part of the street. It's all about connectivity. It's all about creating a pleasant connection between the eastern sector of High Street that we were just talking about, with a focus on the gallery and the administration centre, and then taking people up to the roundabout and onward to the levee and what the levee has to offer, connecting with the levee and the Riverlink building. It's all about increasing local and visitor foot traffic, and hopefully seeing the opportunity for business to benefit from that as people spend some of their hard-earned as they visit Maitland and move in and around the city centre. Moving on, just to share with you where we're at and where we're still going with the Maitland Regional Sports Complex. This, again, is an award-winning development, so we're doing well with our projects in terms of recognition of the architecture and the design. But when we're finished down here with the Regional Sports Complex, we'll have invested around about $30 million into this. The good news is that $19 to $20 million of that $30 million has come from the New South Wales Government through grant funding and other contributions. So a great outcome for the community, and without the community having to carry the full burden of the cost. What we have right at the moment is a sporting oval that probably rivals some of the best certainly in regional New South Wales. It does reflect our proud history, and it's hosted everything from local school games to NRL games and A-League games, and we're certainly looking to see more of that. We also have a world-class track and field facility in the athletics facility. We've got multi-purpose rooms, a new grandstand. It's home to our local athletics clubs, and it's hosting school athletic days, and it will in 2022 host the New South Wales Little Athletics State Combined Carnival. So it's a great facility, and it's already attracting activity and interest from certainly within Maitland, but also from outside Maitland. This short video again just gives you a quick run through of the facility. So as you can see, it's a fantastic facility. I'm sure, like myself, many of you will remember your school athletics carnivals running around on the grass down there at Smythe Field. And I saw a school carnival down at the facility a couple of weeks ago, and I can only imagine how excited those kids are going to their athletics carnival. I'm sure the numbers at the carnivals are oversubscribed these days. Everybody would want to go. And you can only imagine what sort of incentive that gives some of our young athletes to excel in their sport and do well. We're not quite finished down there yet. There's a third stage of the complex. What you're looking at right at the moment are the elements of what will be an outdoor exercise circuit and gym that will be placed around a pathway, an exercise pathway that follows the circumference of the facility, the regional sports complex. This is going to be open to the public for use at any time. It'll be great for people to exercise, to gather. We're also doing an upgrade of lighting at the main sports ground. There'll be an LED scoreboard introduced, and of course the exercise circuit that I just mentioned. With that new lighting and the LED scoreboard, we're looking to increase the utilisation of the main sports ground and hopefully draw even more NRL and A-League teams to come and use the facility. We're on target to finish these works in 2022. And the fourth and final stage of the regional sports complex is what we call Harold Gregson Park. I think the plan on the screen shows you fairly clearly the area that we're talking about. This will complete the transformation of the regional sports complex. The upgrades to the Harold Gregson area will see new pathways, barbecue facilities, new plantings, parking for RVs to park overnight for free campers who might be travelling through and want to spend a night or two in Maitland. So we'll provide an opportunity for them to stay. And I guess if I come back to connectivity within the eastern precinct of High Street, if you think about the regional sports complexes, we're seeing it at the entry to High Street, and as you come up High Street, the administration centre, the art gallery, and the connection through to Ken Tubman Drive roundabout that I mentioned earlier, very much about the transformation of this end of the city centre to tie in with what we've done with the levee and the Riverlink building, and very much drive up interest in the city centre, one as the heart of Maitland, but importantly as a great lifestyle precinct for our residents and visitors to come and enjoy. So I'll leave that for a moment and just talk to you briefly about our customer-driven transformation program. Over the last 2 years, we've done a lot of work in delving into the customer experience for people who engage with and deal with council. We've also been through a very deep dive into our IT and our digital readiness. And out of those two exercises, we have now adopted, and the council has signed off on, what we are calling our customer-driven transformation. It's going to take probably 2.5 years to move right through this, but it is going to significantly change the way that we work internally as a workforce. Importantly, it's going to significantly change the way that the community interact with or transact with council and the way they access information from council. I guess the best way I can illustrate that is that right at the moment, as many of us know, we can conduct our banking transactions at night after dinner when the family's gone to bed. We can generally access quite a bit of information from the government. We want to head down the same path. We don't want people necessarily to be restricted to working with us during our business hours. We would much prefer that you could do that at a time when it works better for you. And in doing that, I'm sure that we will drive up not just our productivity and our staff engagement, but we'll also drive up the community's overall satisfaction with the council. So it's a really important program, and it's one that's going to be pursued in a partnership with the community. Our focus is very much going to be around putting the customer at the centre of everything we do, and we'll be using human-centred design approaches and techniques to redesign our services. Right at the moment, we've started the project that will deliver a new customer service model, and we're talking about all things bins, garbage bins I'm saying there, as the vehicle that we'll use to help develop the customer service model that we'll then roll out for most of our other activities across council. To do that, we're doing customer journey mapping, we're doing desktop research, we're interviewing internal stakeholders, and we're certainly talking to internal customers who need to deal with the council, whether it's to connect to the waste service and get their new bin, whether it's to replace a broken bin or to put in a call about a missed bin. But what we're doing is a deep dive into that experience and how it works for the customer and redesigning those sorts of interactions. If you want to know more about this, please go to the council's website. You can register your interest in participating in this project with us, and we will be looking for people from the community who are prepared to work with us on this redesign of our services and to help us test prototypes and new ways of doing things. So really, really exciting, but again, a transformative project for council and for the community. Moving along, the council last year adopted a destination management plan that identified some key hubs for visitors to Maitland. Some of the obvious ones are Morpeth, of course, and Walker Waterworks, and along with a few more that we won't get right into now. But probably one of the most exciting things to come out of that destination management plan is a plan to actually link Morpeth and Walker Waterworks with a shared pathway. And what you're looking at on the screen at the moment is the Queen's Wharf precinct, or the boat ramp, if you like, at Morpeth. This is essentially a rendering of the master plan that we have for this area. And you can see what are the beginnings of the shared pathway and finding its way along the river, over through Central Maitland, and out to Walker Waterworks. Our thinking is that would be a great draw card for visitors to Maitland, in that they could experience these key visitor hubs, Morpeth, the city centre and Walker, Maitland Jail along the way, and frankly come and stay for a week, because there's going to be plenty to do. The good news is that the first stage of this shared pathway is underway in Morpeth as part of the forthcoming Morpeth Bicentenary celebrations. That pathway is a link from Robert Street back to Illawong Park up on Swan Street, and a link from Queen's Wharf here, where we are, back to Morpeth Road along Steamer Street, and then back up Fig Tree Hill back into Swan Street in Morpeth. So a nice circuit for visitors to Morpeth and the local community to ride, to jog, to walk. In terms of Maitland Jail itself, another key hub for visitation. What you see here is an indication of an accommodation opportunity that's been identified in the jail development plan. There's an opportunity for a 4-star hotel facility to be placed on the western part of the jail landholding that the council is responsible for. The former police station just down here on the roundabout. The building you can see here is the jail workshop, and this is an indication of hotel accommodation that could be there to tie in with activity in the jail. We're also looking at conversion of the governor's residence and the deputy governor's residence that sit each side of the main entry to the jail as boutique accommodation. And we're looking at turning the cafe in John Street inward so that it can be accessed from inside the jail as part of the plan to give free entry to the jail compound for locals, for residents and for visitors, and to then offer paid experiences once people are inside the jail. One of those experiences is a guard tower experience. This image just shows you what that might look like. It involves clearly putting in secure and safe stair access to the upper part of the jail walls. And from there, visitors could look over the jail compound, a guard's eye view, if you like, but also take the opportunity to look at some of the vistas of Maitland that are offered from that high point over in East Maitland at the top of the jail walls. And we do have the funding for that in hand, so that one's well and truly on the way. I'll wind it up. I guess it wouldn't be a presentation from council if I didn't talk about roads. Our operational plan for the current year runs to a total budget of about 182 million. There's $36 million of that in our capital works program. I won't get into the full breakdown of that, but over and above that, budget and that capital works program, we have a current major projects pipeline that runs to about $250 million that will be delivered over this year and the next 2 to 3 years. That, of course, includes major projects like the administration building that we saw earlier, the new waste transfer facility at the landfill at Mount Vincent Road, and about $40 million tagged for roadworks in the Thornton Chisholm area, which, of course, have been topical of recent times, compounded by the growth and the time it takes to I suppose, get the funding together that the council and the state government need to contribute to resolve some of those problems that residents of Thornton and Chisholm are experiencing. I'll wind it up at that. Look, I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. I hope it was more entertaining than a talking head, given that this is a live stream. But be assured, Maitland is transforming. As I said earlier, we're a population at the moment of about 87,000. By 2036, that's going to be somewhere around 115 to 120,000 people. So transformation and growth are what we are managing, what we're pursuing. And I'm very proud of the work that the council is doing, and I'm very optimistic about the future of the city. Shane, I'll hand back to you. I'm happy to field any questions that might come through.
Thank you, David. Once again, a round of applause. Fantastic presentation. Very excited about what council's bringing to the table and continually doing in the background for our community. So tip and hat to you and everyone at council. There have been a couple of questions come in. So the first one is, what will happen to the old administration building?
Yeah, really good question. We've had Colliers do a report for us on the administration building to I guess, give us an informed set of options that they feel, could be considered for the site. There's a range of things that we've looked at, from office floor space to accommodation to community uses. And the report from Colliers is something that we're still digesting. But I guess it's a little too soon to land on any one of those. Clearly, from an office refurbishment point of view, that would seem an obvious thing for us to do, but we've got to be confident that there is a market for contemporary office floor space in the city centre, so there would be more research needed before we would commit to that. There's, I'm sure we all know, there's a shortage of accommodation in Maitland generally. There's a question as to whether or not the frame of this building lends itself to repurposing as serviced apartments or something like that. And then, of course, there are a range of community uses and community activities that that this building would also lend itself to. So we're working through all of those options at the moment, Sean.
Okay, thanks, Dave. This next question leads sort of into what you already suggested at the moment was, what are council's plans to encourage more businesses into the empty shops, particularly in the Levy and High Street precinct?
Yeah, look, we've put I guess you'd call it a business prospectus out for the Levy and the city centre. We did that last year as part of our response to the COVID pandemic. And it's an informed document that's based on our research and our engagement with the community as to the sorts of experiences and the sorts of business activities that they would look for in the city centre. I think we all know that, you know, Green Hills is the retail centre, the major retail centre in Maitland, and that won't and shouldn't change. What we need to be conscious of here in the city centre is that we're not here as a competitor to Green Hills. I've said those words many times over my career in council. The sorts of businesses that people are looking for and the sorts of businesses that we would encourage, and we've indeed tried to engage as much as possible with the real estate fraternity here in the city centre. What you would call your boutique or niche retail offerings, particularly food related, delicatessens, bakeries, those sorts of things that go to giving people more of a lifestyle experience and something that isn't readily on offer in, for example, Green Hills and all of the retail outlets that are there. I think the city centre will probably stay as the centre of commercial activity and office-based activity for Maitland for quite some time. And indeed, our decision to provide new administration floor space for council here in the city centre was very much about trying to anchor and consolidate that commercial precinct as being here in the city centre. So to sum that up, lifestyle related activity and what I would call boutique or niche retail offerings that are not readily available in some of the larger centres.
Okay, so the next couple of questions are, how has COVID affected your council plans for the next 12 months?
Look, I'm confident to say minimally. I'm sure as I speak to you today, I've probably got some 210, 215 staff that are working remotely. So it's, in some respects, as far as service delivery, it is business as usual. Unfortunately, we have had to close our library branches and our library outlets. And we've also had to close both the gallery and the heated pool at the aquatic centre. But they're the only services that have been compromised by the pandemic. Pretty much everything else is business as usual, albeit in a different format to what we would usually be working. The good news is that our outdoor-based staff, so the guys out doing the hard yards on the ground day in, day out, are still able to continue with all of the maintenance work, construction work that's been programmed for the year. And touch wood, we don't see any compromise to that over the year ahead at this point in time. We have taken precautions with start and finish times for the workforce, disbursement of the workforce, to make sure that we minimise the risk of a COVID outbreak having to have us shut down any component of what we're doing.
Yeah, of course. And it is great to see that the projects that are currently underway by council are still moving ahead quite rapidly throughout the community. Some construction on roads and stuff like that, and widening in certain areas is great to see. There's a view coming in now, David. So looks like we've spurred a few questions from the crowd, which is great. And for you guys at home, I really do appreciate your feedback and jumping into the questions. The next one is, when will the city's economic development plan that has been worked on now be available?
It'll be in the first half of next year, Shane. We're going through quite a bit of engagement work, as I'm sure the business community knows. It's been a while since we've had a really deep look at the city economy and looked strategically at where we might need to steer things and to go. But yes, very pleased that it's underway. It's been a little while coming, but we've got some new staff resources on board that are now well and truly into that. But yes, I'd be looking for completion of that toward the end of this financial year.
Excellent. Okay, so there's two more and then we'll wrap it up. So what's on offer from council for Maitland businesses during this difficult time?
Look, I think the short summary there is that we, through social media, certainly promoting the hospitality-based businesses, so restaurants, cafes that are involved in takeaway. We're pushing that out through social media. We're trying to encourage residents to support their favourites and still go and, you know, buy their takeaway, buy their coffee, those sorts of things. For business more broadly, as we did last year, we've opened up our hardship provisions to business, not just to residents. And if there are businesses that are struggling with their rates instalments or things like that, please contact us. That's all they need to do. And we will work through with them a range of things that we can do to ease that burden. You know, we've suspended debt recovery, for example, even now. We won't be charging interest on overdue rates for a period of time. So what we don't want to do is make it worse for anybody. We are here to help, and we have got hardship provisions that will allow us to provide help where it's needed.
That's fantastic, David. It's good to see that council's really taken a human approach to the whole situation that's going on. And as a business chamber as well, if there's any of those retailers or restaurants, cafes, stuff like that who have pivoted and want to drop us some information, and we want to promote that throughout our socials as well. So there have been some people out there who have been doing shout outs to cafes and restaurants that are doing deliveries who would normally have in-house dining, you know. So I'm seeing some great pictures and some awesome meals being served up still during these COVID times. So fantastic, and keep it up. And we want to support that. So, okay, so there's one more here. What are some of the needs for the city that have been recognised, e.g. like, I'll probably going to do a shameless plug here, but the business chamber is trying to push for a convention centre. Is there anything else that council potentially would like to see that sort of outside of their realm, or think would be a great idea to add to jobs and community benefit?
Yeah, look, I think I go straight to the destination management plan, Shane. That I'd encourage anybody to go to our website and access the destination management plan and have a good look at it. It's very much about growing our visitor economy. And I think that's the one thing where there's a lot of room for growth, and that's got to be good for business generally in Maitland. Have a look at the jail development plan. Again, you can access that through council's website. In terms of a convention centre, that's an aspirational goal, I have to say that. And I'm sure there'll be competition from Wine Country and Newcastle and Lake Macquarie. But there's a niche market for gatherings and meetings that I think we can meet very, very well through two facilities. The first one will be the refurbished town hall. I had a walk through the building late last week. I did a site walk with Hanson Yunkin, and we have, well, when I say we, they have completely stripped out the internals of the town hall office element. It's going to be a magnificent restored heritage building with multiple breakout rooms and an auditorium that will seat 400 people. So as a convention type facility of that scale, it's going to be there. Over at Maitland Jail, the jail development plan includes converting the jail workshop building into, I guess, a new point of entry and a new point of sale within the jail, but also a 200-seat auditorium. So again, there's going to be a niche facility there for gathering conventions, meetings of up to 200 people. And hopefully they'll all be staying in the hotel just outside the jail. So I think they're the sorts of things we need to really focus on and push for. The whole principle underpinning the redevelopment of the jail is to do what we can to stimulate private sector investment into the jail. That's what we want. And we're engaged with Crown Lands in New South Wales about how we get to that point. I'm not sure how we'll go, but we've got a grant application in right at the moment for about $5 million. We're asking them to put on the table. We may not get there, but we've at least put the kite up to say, hey, we're here. We need your support. They're very keen. We've done a walkthrough with Crown Lands and we've shown them the development plan. They're very invested now in the future of Maitland Jail. So they're the sorts of things we really need to push and promote. And when we get all that done and get it running, we need to focus on local waterworks because there's some great opportunities out there as well for the visitor economy.
Agreed. David, if you wouldn't mind, after today, if you could have yourself or one of the staff share that link for that destination plan, that we can share it with our members through an EDM or share the link via a Facebook post, because I think it's a lot of information that we want to see and want to encourage to bring more and more people into our region and encourage jobs growth and spending within the Maitland community. So once again, we'll wrap it up there. David, thank you for your time and thank you, Council, for putting this together and sharing the information. It's always a wealth of knowledge and it's always inspiring to see where our rates are going and the improvements we're seeing within our city is fantastic. So once again, congratulations and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks for the opportunity. It's good to see the city through eyes other than our own every now and then. Thanks, mate.
Good. Thank you very much. There you go, guys. That was David Evans from Maitland Council, our GM. I'm going to move on now, speak about our next event, which may or may not be where we're at the moment, depending on how our next couple of weeks go. As we some may have heard, some may not. We are continuing lockdown for another further 2 weeks until the 10th of September. We'll wait here in the coming weeks where that ends up with Gladys and the team. But if all goes well, we come out of lockdown within the next 2 weeks. Then on the 30th of September, we'll have our event at East Golf Club. We'll have Michael Di Lorenzo, Chief Executive of the Hunter New England Health, will be presenting an update on the new Maitland Hospital project. We'll also be joined by Trevor Lynch from the Maitland Rotary Club, who are presenting about the project to build accommodation for family and patients near the new hospital site. So there's some land there, and the Rotary's got a great project where they want to try and allow families that have to travel or have young children, or it just really make logistics easier for family members to be with their loved ones when they're sick. And we're really keen to hear about that. And I'd like to see all of our members join us and see how they can help out with this project. So tickets available now for both events on Humanitix. The AGM will follow our September meeting at 2 p.m. All are welcome. Nomination forms are on the MBC website and will be mailed to you as members. The annual report will also be on the MBC website. So once again, we've got a lot happening in the short coming weeks than the month behind us. But with that in mind, I'll move on to now with our next special guest is Walter Mansfield. He's a Senior Project Officer, Regional Industry Education Partnerships at New South Wales Department of Education and Training Services, New South Wales. Walter will be speaking about how our skills brokers can assist businesses with skills and recruitment, our engagement in the Maitland Place Business Initiative for Disengaged Youth, how businesses can develop partnerships with local high schools, and latest state and federal incentives for employers relating to skills and recruitment. Please welcome Walter.
Great, thank you, Shane, and thank you, Kate, and the rest of the community and the committee, the Business Chamber there for the opportunity to present to you today. So many of you may be aware of the role Training Services New South Wales plays as the state funding agency for vocational education and training, as well as regulating the apprenticeship and traineeship system. But I wanted to use this brief time to highlight two other programs that may be of interest to you today. They are the Skills Broker Services and the REAP program, which is Regional Industry Education Partnerships. So these are only 2 out of many programs or initiatives that we have to offer. Others include Aboriginal initiatives, supervisor workshops, trade pathways. But I think you'll get a lot about hearing about the Skills Broker and the RIG program. So for those of you unaware of Training Services New South Wales, I'll just quickly outline what we do. The agency sits within New South Wales Department of Education. We're responsible for government-funded vocational education and training. We lead strategic policy, planning, funding, and advice on vocational education and training to support economic, regional, and community development. So we're responsible for implementing funded programs, including Smart and Skilled, apprenticeships and traineeships, and adult and community education. To do that, we undertake contract management of Smart and Skilled, of the training providers, TAFE and private training providers, and implement quality assurance performance monitoring to achieve best outcomes for students and community. So our team of around 35 staff based in Newcastle work and travel across every LGA in the Hunter Central Coast and Mid-Coast region. Just wanted to share with you a quick snapshot of the Maitland LGA when it comes to in-training numbers and statistics of industries where the majority of apprentices and trainees are employed. So a total of 2,611 in training total Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander of those are around 206. I'm not sure how well you can see the graph on the right-hand side, but it's an interesting snapshot of, I guess, the strong industries in Maitland. And I guess you take this with a grain of salt as well, because it's only representing those industries that have an apprentice or trainee. So they doesn't tell the full story, but it is interesting nonetheless. Building and construction, obviously a huge employer in the LGA, 18%, followed closely by the automotive industry, manufacturing, engineering, utilities and electro, and community services and health make up the rest of the main players when it comes to job opportunities for apprentices and trainees. It's an interesting snapshot, like I said, because it indicates to us where the opportunities are for mostly young people and where we need to focus our efforts on to make sure that those opportunities continue to be there. Given Maitland's population growth expectations, a lot of these industries are expected to grow, and also down to investment from both government and private enterprise in these sectors. Again, one of the interesting consequences of COVID is that there's skills shortages all over the place. And then when we have lockdowns like we're currently experiencing, there's contractions. So it's a tricky thing to predict. So we have to be quite responsive to supporting community as best we can. So here's what is currently on offer for employers looking to take on an apprentice or trainee. So this represents $2.7 billion from state and federal government in terms of the Boosting Apprenticeship Commencement Program, which was the flagship program, I guess, in terms of incentivizing employers to take on apprentices and trainees. So it's essentially 50% of your apprentice or trainee's wages, which is capped at $7,000 per quarter. This is available until end of March 2022. So if you're thinking about taking on a new apprentice or trainee when restrictions ease or when business experiences an uptick, maybe bring that forward, because no guarantee that wage subsidy will be extended. So when you take that out of the equation, it's still quite a generous package in terms of incentives to take on apprentices or trainees. You've got the normal incentive program payments of up to $5,000, payroll tax rebate, workers' comp reductions, support advice, obviously, from us at Training Services New South Wales, and it's a free course for your apprentice or trainee. Now, the Skills Broker incentive or program is an interesting one. So apart from the wage subsidies and similar incentives that the government introduced to assist with the economic recovery from COVID, the Skills Broker program was really a good personal touch. So it's essentially a bunch of professionals across New South Wales, and your representative for the Hunter region is Sue Ellen Evans. So she's amazing, but you can't just take my word for it. I guess you got to chat to her and avail of her services. So what she does is she supports you with any of your recruitment needs. Now that can be recruitment of anyone from a job active agency or from Department of Education, Skills and Employment, or she can help you with downsizing as well. She's currently helping a few large employers in the Upper Hunter and a few smaller associated mining company employers as well downsize. And she's assisting them with providing the people who are being let go with training opportunities to make sure that they don't just go into the job queue, that they use their time while they're job searching in a proactive manner, that they can avail of many short courses, micro-credentials and longer type courses completely free. So she uses pre-employment training programs to help organizations recruit. And she determines eligibility of your staff, training opportunities through Job Trainer. And she can come in and look at the complete workforce development process from school right through to PD training for your staff to support you. So an example of that, I guess, in practical terms would be, say, a small business specialized in plumbing. She will be able to provide funding for any apprentices or staff under the age of 24 for, say, Bobcat, Convite Spaces, those kind of tickets that may not be included in their normal conventional training, or there might be existing staff who need to get those tickets who don't have them. She also can assist with putting through senior staff through a supervision skill set, say from the training, an assessor package to support young people, because there's that generation gap coming through as well, where if things are going well in your business and you want to take on new employees, how do you best support and mentor them, especially if they're a really young person and you've got that generation gap in place? That might be a barrier. So using that example, they're kind of the examples, I guess, of tickets and different types of training that might equate to $2,000 or $3,000 for a small business, yet under Job Trainer it's fully funded. So essentially, if you want to downsize or upsize and that decision invokes a training need, whether to organize training for someone that's being let go, or you're upsizing and want to recruit, then reach out to me for Sue Ellen's details. Chances are that, that those training costs can be funded by Training Services New South Wales through Job Trainer Skilling for Recovery. Moving on to the REAP program, which is an acronym for Regional Industry Education Partnerships. This is where I sit. It's a program that aims to strengthen connections between local industry and secondary schools. So it builds partnerships between you as local employers and the local high schools, supports employers in engagement strategies with the schools, their students, to share your expectations for your future workforce. It's assisting students develop the skills they need to get a job, and it's strengthening links between what's learned at school and what's needed in the workplace, because the two don't necessarily always match up, even when it comes to vet courses in hospitality or metals or engineering or primary industries. There can be a bit of a disconnect with those without expectations and what the reality is on the ground in your workflows. So traditionally speaking, I guess you have those that work placement, work experience, careers expos, where how students were exposed to different industries. But the reality is that for young people to get the full range of new and emerging industries, we need to do a little bit more. And that's where the REAP program comes in. It provides those rich real world learning opportunities that spark students' curiosity. And that can range from learning projects, mentoring programs, career taster days, competitions, immersive events. So we particularly focus on the year 9 to 12 cohort, which is the focus, because they're the ones closest to the employment pathways. So there's been some wonderful programs across New South Wales and indeed in the Maitland area too. This is a quick example of one, a 7-week try a trade program in which year 10 girls from different high schools, spend 1 day a week at a different trade. So they're with a training provider, they're learning what it looks like, and then they hear from apprentices or employers who drop in to speak to them about the career pathways and what can be expected when they undertake an apprenticeship or traineeship. So this is just an example of, say, a trade-related pathways, but we're keen to engage with any employer, whether that's a hairdresser or an aged care facility or a beautician or real estate or businesses that have university pathways. We're not just purely aligned with vocational education and training. We want to make sure that every student has access to industry validated career information. So over the next 3 years, I'm going to be working with local schools and local businesses from Maitland, Cessnock up towards the upper on similar initiatives to promote careers within your business or industry. So those kind of activities will create what's hoped will be an ecosystem, basically, of school industry partnerships that will extend beyond the lifespan of this REAP program, which is 3 years. So for employers out there interested in partnering with the program, what's the commitment? Simple activities can involve you giving up your time to speak to students about your career pathway and about your industry, whether that's in school or at your workplace. The outcome there is that the students are going to have stronger local networks and a greater understanding of the skills needed to get a job in your industry and what that looks like. Employers who want more involvement can utilize the REAP program and myself to co-design a program to suit your recruitment needs. So say you've got an issue attracting young people to your organization. Well, the first thing you and I would tackle would be the exposure element. I'll get you into the schools or get the students out of school into your workplace to hear about how good it is, how great an industry you work for, and so forth. Then the second stage might be those who are really interested on a deep dive, like accredited training over a couple of days or across a few weeks, and then you take them on a couple of students maybe, or a student for some work experience or workplace. So the outcomes we're hoping casual or part-time work, at uni, or if they're looking for an apprenticeship traineeship opportunity and they see your advertisement, then they'll think of you straight away. An even better outcome than that would be that you no longer have to advertise for positions specifically targeted for young people, because you will have identified some fantastic young people through this program that will bring energy and creativity to your organization. So essentially, we want to help businesses create a pipeline of local capable talent that's going to grow your business really across all the levels. So that's the REAP program. We're also assisting regional New South Wales on the Maitland place-based initiative. So that's in collaboration with Council, PCYC, other Lower Hunter agencies, and the aim of that initiative is to develop programs for disengaged school leavers and youth to engage them in entry-level training and increase their awareness of job opportunities in the area, because we certainly can't ignore the fact that there's a cohort of disengaged youth who are not incentivized or attracted to the current schooling system, and we need to make sure that they don't fall off the radar. So popping up my contact details now. That's my phone number and my email address as well. I'd love for you to reach out if you're interested in being part of the program, or if you want to hear about the other programs, or if you want Sue Ellen's contact details as a skills broker. Thank you again so much for listening to me harp on, especially at lunchtime. Thank you, Shane.
Walter, thank you very much. A lot of information there coming out, and it's exciting to see that we're re-engaging our youth. We see a lot of talented youth leave our area and travel Newcastle, Sydney, and far beyond, and we lose a lot of talent. And hopefully these programs will look to capture and retain the talent. And as a business owner and a business leader, I recommend that business owners start looking at the talent that we have here and taking on a trainee. We have trainees within our business as well, and very rewarding for both us as a company and me as a business leader, but also for our trainees. So if there's any questions, put it into the chat spot for the video, guys. I've got a couple that have already come in, Walter, if you don't mind. One is, are there any studies about what careers students and youth are most interested in? And is there a shift in recent years?
Yeah, there's a great organisation called Youth 13, and I recommend you subscribing to their mailing list because they produce some fascinating research that's really, I guess, a finger on the pulse. So I guess with the climate crisis, climate emergency, whatever you want to call it, young people, they're very orientated towards businesses and companies that wear the climate credentials on their sleeve. And that can be across the whole range, a whole range of businesses that aren't even, I guess, related to climate change. So I'm thinking, pulling an example out of my head, say a construction company, you know, school leavers or who want to enter an apprenticeship, or university graduates in the construction pathways. They want to make sure that, I guess, the work they're doing contributes to a circular economy, that we're not you know, growing up our carbon emissions so that you know, the current crisis continues. So that's one element. The second element is passion. You know, a lot of young people today wear their heart on their sleeve. They're quite emotionally, I guess, mature in terms of, you know, big dreamers. Unfortunately, the reality, the cold hard reality of adulthood, that doesn't always match up with those strong ambitions. So, you know, for any businesses who want to attract that passion and engagement, it's a really good opportunity for them to, I guess, maybe revitalize their own passion for why they joined the industry as well. So if you're advertising, speak to those two key points, and I think you'll be on your way.
Yeah, so actually, it's uncanny that the next question leads into that. You know, how are students' attitudes and expectations for entry-level positions addressed prior to starting work, but also to, you made a good point about revisiting our passion as business leaders, about why we got into the field we're in. Is there a way of, I suppose, bridging that gap? Because there's a perception that, you know, lots of talented young youth out there, but they come in, you know, all starry-eyed, and like you said, the cold hard reality of some of the positions, it's not quite, you know, what they thought it would be, or, you know, there's more challenges involved than they anticipated. So how's that being addressed?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the main, I guess, one of the main things behind the REAP program is to address the mismatch of expectations of young people of coming in at the entry level and being in charge of the organization, you know, within a couple of years. And it kind of goes back to, I guess, that startup mentality where we want to foster a young person's creativity and their entrepreneurship skills. But when it comes to joining an established organization where there is a hierarchy, and that hierarchy exists for a reason, you know, in trade related occupations, it's to protect the young person, and in other related, you know, it's to protect you as a business owner and to protect your clients as well. So the REAP program hopes to address that mismatch by giving more clarity to what's expected in the workplace, and to make sure that those expectations are properly acknowledged. It's a tricky one, and it's not going to turn around immediately, because those expectations will continue to be there. The school-based apprenticeship traineeship system is another fantastic opportunity. That's where you take an apprentice or trainee while they're still in schooling, 1 day a week over the across 2 years, so that they can have an idea of what it is in the workplace before they then take up that profession full time. So yeah, it's an ongoing challenge, but it's one that we try and address every day, whether in my role or the training advisors who are out there talking to apprentices who you know, have issues with their employers and want them addressed.
Well done. I don't believe there's any more questions at the moment, which means that you've explained everything really well. Once again, Walter, I would like to thank you and the team for joining us today. And if anyone wants to get in contact with the REAP program, or Walter and Walter, I should say, or Sue Ellen for that matter, the information's there. However, after this, we will be sending out all the contacts in relation to both the presentations. And if you have any further questions, drop us an email, send us a messenger on Facebook, or give us a call. We'll try and find out more information on any of the topics that we've covered today, and we'll get you in touch with the right people to make sure that the right information has been sought and we can bridge those gaps. Once again, thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of our live stream. I'd like to say thank you very much once again to the team behind the scenes, Jonathan Pointer and his team at Streamhouse / Nimbler Digital, for the hard work that's going on. Members and everyone who's joined us, please leave us some feedback. We want to continue to get better and want to make sure we're still bringing value for you, our members. And if you need connecting with someone who needs support, reach out. We're here for you, and we want to make sure that everyone comes out of the lockdown fighting fit and ready to go, because it's only going to be busy and busy. All right. Once again, thank you on behalf of myself and the Maitland Business Chamber for joining us today.